G'day guys, Dean from Blog for the Blood God here, and I've just got back from RATCon 2022 where I placed 17th out of 74 running a highly experimental Alpha Legion list. Now, not every unit in the list and not every combination worked exactly how I had hoped. However, there was one combination that performed extremely well for me. So what I want to do in this video today is showcase this unit, showcase this combo, explain how it works, explain how to get the most value out of it, and explain how to protect yourself against it should you go up against Alpha Legion. So it's going to be a very deep dive on an Alpha Legion combo using the Warp Talons. So with that being said, let's get straight into the video.
Blog for the Blood God.
Alrighty guys, so what we're going to do here is I'm going to show you how to utilize the Warp Talons to do a really powerful Alpha Strike and do some really powerful tricks. Now, a lot of this stuff is exclusive to Alpha Legion. I'm going to use a sort of a proxy of the army that I took to RATCon 2022 to showcase this trick. However, you can feel free to adapt these units and these combos into your existing lists in various different ways. There's lots of different ways you can do it. I'm just giving you one example here. So the key elements to the list that I ran was the unit of 10 Terminators with the Dark Apostle and the Master of Possessions, and they had the black rune on them and all that good shit. And then 2 units of 10 Warp Talons. Now, I had other elements to the list as well. I had cultists and all that sort of shit, but I'm not going to bother pulling them out because they're not relevant to this specific trick that I want to showcase. And then on the other side of the table, you can see I've set up just a sort of a generic vanilla kind of Marines list. It's got a bit of a mixture of units just to showcase the way that this rule is going to interact. Now, the first thing worth noting is that there's a Warlord trait for Alpha Legion called Master of Diversions, and that allows you to redeploy up to 3 units. So what you do is you can deploy your Warp Talon units aggressive, so they're deployed all the way at the front of my deployment zone. Then you deploy your Terminator unit and your characters defensively. So they're deployed out of line of sight at the back of the table. And this basically means that your Terminators are deployed safe and can't be shot, and that's what I mean by defensive. And your Warp Talons are deployed where if you get the first turn, you get maximum damage and maximum utility. Then you'll roll to see who goes first, and if you get the second turn, you can redeploy your Warp Talons defensive. So you can go, cool, I'm going to redeploy them behind this ruin, I'm going to redeploy them behind that ruin, and now your opponent's not going to do any damage to you in their first turn. However, if you get the first turn, you can go, I'm going to redeploy my Terminators, my Master of Possessions, and my Dark Apostle up into this gap here. So that's the redeploy component, which basically means that if you're going to get first turn, you're going to be able to deploy in such a way that maximizes your damage. And if you're going to get second turn, you're going to be able to deploy in such a way that minimizes your opponent's damage. This is a very powerful Alpha Legion trick. The next powerful trick is that if you do get the first turn, you can use 1 CP per unit for up to 2 units to do a pre-game move of 12 inches. So basically these Warp Talons before the first turn are going to be able to move up into the center of the table like so. Now, I'm going to be a bit sloppy with the movement here because, it's just an example. But basically you can throw your Warp Talons up like that. And then your other unit of Warp Talons is going to do more or less the same thing. They're basically going to fly up to the center of the board like so, as an example of what you can do with Warp Talons. So that's all of this, and now imagine in this case the Terminators, you've got first turn, so the Terminators are here. I'm not going to bother moving them because they're not relevant to the rest of this trick. Now you go into your first turn. So now the Terminators that have moved up to here, redeployed to here, move up into the center and take whatever objectives or whatever, focus point you have. And now your Warp Talons get to move their 12 inches in their first turn, which means these Alpha Legion Warp Talons are actually right on your opponent's doorstep. They're right up in the thick of it and they're ready to go in. Then you do the same thing with this other unit. You basically move them up there 12 inches so that they're right in front of your opponent's army. So I think it's pretty obvious what we're going to do here is now we're going to charge. You're going to charge your opponent and tie up a whole bunch of their units. Now, the beautiful thing with the Warp Talons here is they have the fly keyword. So when you go to charge, you can actually jump over your opponent's lines. So let's say we roll an average 7-inch charge off these guys, because on a 2d6, your average is going to be 7 inches. And you can now jump over these scouts and place your unit in here. And what you do is you declare the scouts and the intercessors. And that way, if you do roll a 1 or a 2, like a 2-inch charge, you can just touch them, right? But if you roll your standard average 7, you'll be able to do something to the effect of this, right? Maybe a couple of these guys in here, just to spread it out a bit. Right, so you're engaged with those two, right? Then over here you do the same. Let's say that these guys don't get quite as lucky and they don't roll so big, so they just go straight in the front. And basically they're just gonna try and get as many of them in here, but the key here is to try to tag or touch as many enemy units as possible. Because Warp Talons have another really cool party trick. So even though we want to put a bunch of guys in to kill those, say those assault intercessors, we want to make sure that we string the unit along and touch these eradicators as well. So now you go into your fight phase, and your fight, you can give Warp Talons reroll hits from Abaddon if you have him in the list, and then they get reroll wounds from their lightning claws. So they're actually quite effective murderers. So say you go, 8 of them into the Marines and 2 of them into the Scouts. Now, Warp Talon goes in with 5 attacks. That unit puts out 50 attacks. Generally speaking, each Warp Talon is probably going to kill 1 Marine. So say we kill 7 Marines here, and say 3 Scouts there. And then over here we do the same sort of thing. We go, cool, 7 of those guys dead. And maybe we don't kill 1 of them, because they're pretty tough. Right? Now, your opponent gets to fight back, and what you want to try to do, if you can, is use your pile-ins and consolidate moves, so after you've killed, to get 3 models either side of 1 model in each enemy unit. So I'll do a close-up of that now to show you what I mean. And basically what this means is that your opponent won't be able to fall back out of combat because they can't move through your units. Now, there is a stratagem called Desperate Breakout that allows them to do that. However, the Warp Talons have another party trick that really disincentivizes that. So basically, let's just say that these combats happen. They kill a couple of Warp Talons here. You've tagged the bikes as well for fun, why not? And over here, they've killed a couple as well. Now we go into your opponent's turn, and they go, okay, cool, we want to shoot these Warp Talons with all of our tanks, right? In order for them to do that, they would need to fall back out of combat, which means they would need to spend a CP in order to fall back with any units that you've managed to get a tri-point pin on, which if you've done it across multiple, they won't be able to do it on multiple because it's a stratagem can only be used once. But let's say you only did it on 1. With Warp Talons, every time your opponent goes to fall back out of combat with them, you roll off, and if you win that roll off, they can't fall back. This effectively translates to a mathematical 4-up to prevent them from falling back. So the more units that you can be engaged with, the better, because they're going to have to try to roll with the Scouts, then they're going to have to try to roll with the Intercessors, they're going to have to try to roll with the Eradicators, they're going to have to try to roll with the Assault Intercessors, so the probability of them just winning every one of those roll-ups is quite low. So basically, let's say hypothetically, they're going to win half of them, so these Intercessors fall back successfully, but the Scouts fail, and these Eradicators fall back successfully, but these Intercessors fail. So now, those 2 Warp Talon units are still engaged in combat, which means none of this can shoot them, and also things like these bikes, they're going to struggle to fall back because they might have wanted to go that direction, but they can't because the Warp Talons are in the way. So when they do fall back, they're going to have to fall back that way, and you can use this to funnel your opponent into their center of their deployment zone and really control the table. And now, basically, they're not going to be able to shoot any of your Warp Talons, so they're going to have to jump into combat to dig you out, and that's exactly where you want to be because Warp Talons are really powerful in combat. Further to this, hypothetically say they decide, okay, cool, we're just going to leave our bikes in combat with you. They're just going to pile in and fight, and they kill a couple more. Then, when it gets to your next turn, because you're Alpha Legion, you can fall back and charge. And because you've got jump packs, you can fall back over your opponent. So these guys could fall back over to here, and then charge again. And basically you can just keep doing that back and forth, back and forth. And every time you do that, the other advantage is that you get to fight first because you've made a charge. So these guys do the same thing, fall back, charge, tag a bunch of shit, and you can basically keep your opponent locked in a combat that they don't want to be in all game. Meanwhile, your Terminator unit is moving up the board, clearing out anything hard, putting a really aggressive posture on, and your cultists are down the back, raising banners and cleaning up and holding those backfield objectives. So this is a really powerful combo with the Warp Talons. So the key elements, just to do a recap, the redeploys are a really powerful way of ensuring that you get the perfect deployment and ensuring that when you do get that first turn, you're perfectly positioned for a powerful alpha strike. Then you use the pre-game move to facilitate that alpha strike on the Warp Talons by moving them up into the center, then taking your first turn, moving them into your opponent's deployment zone, charging, tying everything up. Then you utilize the fact that if your opponent tries to fall back, they have to beat you on a roll-up. And if they fail that roll-up, they're going to die because they're going to be stuck in combat with something with lightning claws. And then finally, if the combat is still ongoing by your next turn, you're Alpha Legion. So you are able to fall back and then charge back in again, which allows you to dig out characters from their backfield that they think they're protecting, those sorts of things. So this is a really powerful Alpha Legion combo that's exclusively powerful with Warp Talons. Alrighty guys, I hope you enjoyed that masterclass on Alpha Legion Warp Talons, and I hope you found this trick interesting, and I hope you get utility out of it if you try to use it in your games. I just took it to RatCon 2022, and there was some shortcomings in the rest of my list. There's some areas that I needed to improve on, which is why I only came 17th out of the 74 players in attendance. However, this part of the list, this Warp Talon trick, was very, very powerful. So that was absolutely amazing and game winning in a lot of the games that I did win. So it's just a matter of trying to find the other supporting elements to the list that you want to work in that will support this and tie up with it well. So with that being said, I'm going to leave it there. Let me know what you guys thought in the comments below. Let me know if you'd like to see more videos where I do the actual models on the table and do the placements and show you the specifics of how these sorts of things work, or if you prefer more of just the reading through the rules, showing them up on the screen, that sort of content, because I want to basically tailor this content to you. I do this for you guys. I thoroughly enjoy the feedback that I get and the comments and the discussions that we have in the comments below there. I love it, man. It's so good. So keep that shit up. I really do appreciate it. And for those of you who sign up on my Patreon, I want to send a special shout out to you. I really do appreciate every single dollar that comes through there. That allows me to improve the quality of my content, and it also helps me justify to the wife why I should be down here in the studio recording instead of helping out around the house. So if you want to help me out there, head over to Patreon. It's only $1 a month. It's really cheap, and it goes a long way to helping me grow and build this channel. So thank you very much to those who support me on Patreon. And yeah, I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Cheers.
Look for the blood god.
Do your objective markers ever get lost behind terrain or other models and become difficult to see? Do they ever get bumped and accidentally moved during a game? And do they ever spark arguments about distances? Well, not anymore. Introducing the blog for the blood god, not even remotely patented neoprene objective markers. Made from the same material as astronaut suits, or maybe military equipment, or probably neither of those things, this 2mm thick neoprene synthetic rubber is tear resistant, water resistant, and is designed to last. But that's not all. The blog for the blood god, not even remotely patented neoprene objective markers come in a variety of different designs and styles to suit any faction represented in the Warhammer 40,000 universe. These objective markers are a perfect gift for yourself or a friend, and are a perfect way to flex and show your opponent that not only are you a smarter, cooler, and better 40k player than them, but you also have more disposable income than they do. For the low price of $25, you'll get not one, not two, but 6 neoprene objective markers perfectly designed for 9th edition Warhammer 40k. But wait, there's more. For a limited time only, people who sign up on Patreon to support Blog for the Blood God as a Skull Champion tier $5 per month member will gain access to a custom design service where I will design a unique logo to support their gaming club, like the one I did to the left here for the Potato Farmers local gaming club here in Melbourne. Follow the links in the description of this video to pick up your set today.